Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Shine Talent Talks. I'm your host, Vasundhara Sokti. I'm so delighted to welcome you all to Shine Talent Talks for an interactive session today. Today's event is hosted by Shine.com, which is India's most innovative and fastest growing job portal. I would like to invite Mr. Vijay Nair, Head of Marketing Shine.com, to give opening remarks to our esteemed speakers and audience. Mr. Nair.
At Shine, we are eager to meet all your hiring requirements and assist you in your quest for success together as a partner. We are really looking forward to serving all your talent needs as we go forward. Now, as I look at today, the 24th of Feb, it's quite interesting. I kind of kept looking back and said that there are a few interesting things that have happened back in history on this particular day. So in 1972, James Watt was granted the patent for rotary motion for the steam engine on this day, 24th Feb. And we all know how it revolutionized the entire humankind, the steam engines, right? In 1886, on 24th Feb, is when the Times of London newspaper published the world's first classified ad. This created many industries and pivoted the entire advertising landscape itself. In 1997, scientists from Scotland announced the cloning of the first mammal, and they named the lamb Dolly. This opened up an entire new horizon for medical care. For the ones who are interested in rap music and sports, 1999 on this day is when Eminem released his first major album, The Real Slim Shady. Or coming closer to 2019 on 24th Feb, the current god of football, Lionel Messi, he scored his 50th hat-trick of his career while playing for Barcelona. Now, what's the significance of all of this in today's discussion? Well, if you look at it, all of that I mentioned is pure data. But what's more important is how will this data get consumed and used further? So today in our session, we'll be hearing from Mr. Prasad as to how data can be an enabler in the overall HR strategy, right? In the same way, each of the points that I mentioned about history impacts human life in one form or the other. Eventually, every employee is also an individual while at work or outside of the workplace during the working hours. And many things impact them during work as well. So our esteemed panel will be sharing insights on how should employee well-being be integrated at workplace to have a happy, healthy, and an effective employee. So I'm excitedly looking forward to the session ahead. Thank you.
I think this is something which is very close to my heart, and I truly believe the key differentiator that HR can bring in delivering both employee experience as well as the client experience is by converting the insights into action or execution. Okay. So I'm really excited to share my own thoughts for the next 10 odd minutes and then hand it over to the panel members as well. I think fundamentally, the future of work clearly resets the expectation from the HR function. I think the importance of HR has gained quite significant because every organization today, irrespective of the industry, they strongly believe that I think the talent is going to be the biggest differentiator for them to have a long-term competitive edge. That's very clear. Number two, I think there is a clear expectation from HR on par with the CFOs in these days to drive the transformation agenda. Okay. When I say the transformation is not purely from the workforce transformation. The transformation includes the business transformation, because at the end of the day, we are responsible for the client experience as well as the employee experience. Okay, it's function. HR as a function is no more seen as a cost center sitting behind and doing, the HR ops work. We are leading from the front, and that provides us an immense opportunity as well as the responsibility and accountability for each one of us as the functional leaders. Right. If you look at driving transformation from employee and client perspective, and with employee expectations changing and the macro environment, the technology getting disrupted every now and then, Okay, the entire employee value proposition needs to be agile. It can't be a constant one. What is the employee value proposition for many organizations pre-COVID is very different from what we have today. Okay, and from a client experience point of view, very clearly, the client is expecting to have the best-in-class talent who has the technology understanding as well as the industry experience, so that they come in, they understand their landscape and help them to grow their businesses. Okay, so the accountability is on us to get the best talent into the organization. The second is the employee experience piece, which we'll focus quite a bit on this, right? I think the employee experience today, if you really look at, it stems down to the change in the expectations from the employees. Today we are talking about we just started the conversation actually talking about whether you guys are still working from home or hybrid work environment, so on and so forth, right? I think the first and foremost is, I think most of the companies are hybrid, especially in IT. I think it's clearly knocking off the boundaries, and we are looking at using different technologies which clearly in the going forward are going to knock off the boundaries. Example, the metaverse. Okay, we are creating an environment where two of us sitting in different geographies can sit in the same room and interview the candidates, for example. Okay, sitting in the same room, same environment, and welcome and onboard the candidates. Okay, so there are many technologies coming into play, and technologies like AI, blockchain, the big data, all these are going to change how HR delivers its services to the employees and the end customer, our clients, as well as we move forward. So I'll give how we use data from a Wipro perspective, right? I think all of us know the basic stuff is in terms of looking at how we are hiring people, how doing analytics around retention and engagement. I think these are the basic the stuff every organization do. When you read the research reports, I think at least 80 to 85% of the organizations are at the maturity level of this. More it is of ability to present the current status quo, looking back and the what has really happened. I think the key differentiator for every organization is going to be how we're going to be a lot more productive in terms of sharing insights, where business is able to take decisions. Okay, and given the environment, given the changes that are happening in technology, what we really see is there are broadly three elements which should be the HR priorities, and data should enable for us to execute these HR priorities. One, given the hybrid work environment, we feel that the effectiveness of leadership and managers is going to be extremely important. Today, most of our organizations post-pandemic, because of the demand-supply gap, had a major churn, and most of the people who have joined haven't even come to our campuses. Okay, so how do you connect that social capital? How do you connect emotion? And the only way is depending upon how leaders and managers are able to engage with them, connect at emotional level, and because those are the only people they are going to engage with on day-to-day basis, right? So leadership and managerial effectiveness is going to be one of the key elements. The second is the organization design is constantly changing. The structure that is relevant yesterday is completely changing today, and it's completely putting challenges on us in terms of how are we getting the right people into the new boxes and in different geographies with different nationalities, different culture. How do we manage the change? Literally every organization, I can ask my panel members, in their organizations, literally every alternate year, the structures keep changing. Either it is from a market perspective, or units getting consolidated, or we getting acquired, so on and so forth, right? The third is workforce transformation. I think that is clearly disrupted by the technology. I think the technology that is relevant today is no more relevant in tomorrow's context. So therefore, there is a lot of owners of the function to look at how we really constantly upskill our workforce so that they're relevant for us, they're productive, and they can deliver value to our clients.
Well-being, as we all understand, or we are kind of going through, It is to create, or what we think is it can create a positive work environment, and it can enhance the employee performance per se. The industry, I would say, started long back by giving only the benefits, which were the way it was, that we will give the benefits to the employees, and then it was left there. And then last 2 3 years, the COVID hit, and the well-being has been transformed into totally different meaning. Now, even the what we said earlier, flexible work schedule, or the breaks in the schedule, or providing a simple gym membership, or those things also, or mental health counselors in the offices or otherwise, are becoming like a prevalent thing in the well-being industry. The industry is growing at a CAGR of almost 12 to 15% every year, and in India it is approximately, whatever I could research, it was around 20 billion industry as of now, and it is growing at a CAGR of 12 to 15%. And it doesn't only include the things that I said. It is very many things over and above that. The global industry size is said to be around 1 trillion. So $1 trillion industry as a well-being. And then when you tie it back, there are various things that come out, and you get into that, whether this will be regarded as a well-being or it is just a benefit that is giving. So I thought, let me start with first thing which I would get into is, what are the top trends which are really going on in this industry, if we can discuss that. And Bhavya, would request you to take it forward from, what are the top trends that you are seeing over here in the industry of well-being?
So let me just take a step back and say that how are we defining well-being? Because that itself, like Anand was saying, right, over the last few years, there's been a lot of discussion around what is well-being in itself. And I think that itself points to one of the trends, which is that we have started looking at well-being in a far more holistic way in comparison to how we were looking at it earlier. Like he was saying earlier, it was very discrete, various initiatives or small things that you do, and you just say, okay, club everything together and call it well-being. I think now, over the last few years, people themselves, or our employees, as well as organizations, have started looking at the term itself very holistically, looking at physical well-being, mental well-being, emotional well-being, as well as spiritual in some cases. So I think the definition itself over the years has evolved, and I think for the better. So that's the first thing, I think, for all of us to look on and also to work upon as HR professionals. And then the second one, I think, linked to the first one, which is that, especially as Indians, I think a lot of times we take well-being for granted, right? Unless there's something that goes wrong on the physical front or some problem that we face, we never were very serious, about saying holistically, how do we look at ourselves and how do we groom ourselves like that? Of course, there are people like that, but the majority of us have not been like that, right? And I think over the last few years, when COVID gave us a lot of time, I think, to be with our families much more, gave us a little time to kind of see what was happening around. I think this whole equation has changed a lot in terms of people themselves going to organizations and asking, what are you doing? And at the same time, organization also looking at it and saying, what else can we do? So I think that's the other very large, 30,000 feet view on how we're looking at well-being. I think just the focus itself on it in a holistic way has changed, right? So that's a big trend as well. The third one that I do want to talk about is the infusion of technology, right? Again, I think when COVID happened, everybody, people themselves, again, as employees as well as organizations, were kind of pushed to say how much and how well can we use technology across all fields, and focusing on well-being, of course. And if you look at some of the most basic things, is that so many things when we went to a hospital or when we went for a checkup were all manual, right? You had to submit papers, paperwork, forms, this, that, and the other. Within days, all of that completely became online. And while we may look at it as a very logistical thing, small tick mark, okay, it was just a form and it became online, but look at the convenience that it gave everybody, right? In the sense that we were doing a process, and for years and years, in fact decades, we're following the same thing, and then suddenly in a week everything changed and became online and became so convenient. The same things where we said we need physical copies, suddenly to say, okay, online copy with a sign will do, and stuff like that. So So I think technology and how it has the potential to transform experience completely. I think that's the third thing. So three things that I spoke about. The first one being the definition of well-being itself becoming far more holistic. The second one being that people themselves as employees as well as organizations both asking on what are we doing. And the third one is the infusion of technology and how that has the potential to transform.
They are pretty clear about, hey, how can I manage my time, my hours of working, or how can I ensure that there is enough and more balance. And I think pandemic has taught us and taken us into extremes, but still I think despite having multiple initiatives around it, be it employee assistance programs or launching applications for employees to just use some of the apps we've used really is Headspace to help with meditation, take some time off, or just force reminders on your screen that, hey, stretch yourself or take a break, take a mental break, etc., etc. But still the sense of utilization of our EAPs or even the mental health counselors, I think, hasn't picked up the pace. There is a good usage when it comes to our insurance because your illness and your physical difficulties are out there and you don't have a choice but go to a doctor. But your mental wellness issues, I think a lot of times we snooze it in our head. And I think that's continuing because of course there's stigmatization in general in the ecosystem. Second, at workplace, hey, what if my HR or my manager uses this data, right? So despite all the privacy pieces that are attached, I think that stigmatization trend is something which we need to capture. And I think at least as an organization, what we are trying to do is make sure that we make this part of your life. We have our leadership, potentially spokespeople from rest of the organization come up and share their stories that, hey, this is what I've gone through in life and this is how maybe this program or this benefit has helped me, so that we normalize things, right? And I think with evolving usage of technology, apps on phone, on demand, wherever you want some help helps. And I think industries or companies like ours are also moving into that trend of, hey, can we just give access to mental wellness or wellness applications which employees can just use it on their personal devices for anytime use, right? Or talk to a counselor when they have a need. I think some of these trends are certainly catching up, but I think the key takeaway for me is that the increasing need of holistic wellness exists, and it's existed from long, but the prevalence or relevance has become much more important, but requires us to manage stigmatization as we go about and go all out in this front. Thanks, Anand. Back to you.
Thanks for inviting me. Happy to be here. I don't think it will be anything that I would like to add on. I'll just summarize that, yes, the biggest trend in wellness is that integral part of life, work life, and not as an event of having a birthday party here and there or a picnic here and there, but how do we make wellness in each and every, or rather well-being in each and every HR touch point. So during appraisals, performance appraisal discussions, are they non-toxic? Are they non-threatening? Are they constructive? So I'm saying bringing wellness in each and every aspect of the value chain and not making it as a separate offering. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Renu. In fact, you touched upon a very important point with respect to making sure that each of the HR processes and well-being is not only providing mental or physical or others, but making sure that the career growth or the discussions between the employees or their peers are also healthy, so that it kind of gives back in a right way.
Women, it may work differently for different generations. Gen Y, Gen Zs. Gen Zs are so different from, totally a new set of people who we are seeing. Things are very different there, right? So I think we need to just tweak a little bit be it for different diverse groups. and different industries. Headers still remain the same. It's just that how you tweak it. Probably when you're looking at, let's say, for food, that are we able to give nutritious food for our people? Now, in a manufacturing setup, yes, we have a cafeteria and I'm going to be setting the menu and that is what is being served there. But in an IT company where not all the companies serve food, but what is the difference here? It's just that the canteen which is there, are you giving the right menu there? I probably as an employee, I'm going to go and buy, but are the menus which are there, which are served in the cafeteria, are they as per the diet that a person should have, right? So those are aspects that needs to be really just a little tweaking, and everything really will work in across the industry. Now, how do we look at that and how do we find that out? Is something like at our workplace we have something called well-bees. Now we call them as well-bees because they are the ones they are employee resource group. And they are the employees who are among the employees and understand what our people want. And then you pick it's not for us, for the leaders or the HRs to sit in a room, and for you and me to sit in a room and decide this is what is to be done, but to understand what our people really want. So these well-bees really help us to understand from the ground, saying, employees are talking about these are some things that we need to be doing. And you just bring that up and add it up to your offerings. Now, what is probably a training in a manufacturing setup will be slightly different, where there'll be a lot of mandatory trainings, but probably in an IT or in that also you have different aspects of technical training to leadership training. All of these are something which is required, right? Be it financial well-being. Now, how much money do I earn that I will be able to spend in mutual funds or in an FD or whatever, right? So those are some things will be curated as per the requirement of the industry or curated as per the different diverse group that we are targeting. Absolutely, it will never be that one size fits all. We will have to look at different offerings for different set of people. But honestly, the headers still remain the same. Everything will work. It is just for us to understand what is working. And I think to a large extent, because exactly as our co-panelists did talk about, things have changed drastically after the pandemic, right? Pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. Earlier, I thought many of us thought we are immortal. We never want to do our health checkups, and now it's just saying, hey, you know what? Everyone is. It's important that all of us do our health checkup on a very regular basis, right? So we are going there. So probably earlier the adoption rate of doing a health checkup was very minimal, and now it's suddenly shot up. So I think it's just for us to understand there's a lot of experimenting that needs to be done. There is nothing which is right or wrong, but there is something works, something doesn't work. So you have to keep tweaking, and sometimes what works also does not work all the time, right? That you will always see peaks and it'll come down. The moment it comes down, you will look creatively as to how you will engage the employees once again and come up with a newer idea and then bring them, make those changes, relevant changes, and relaunch it, and then you will see again the adoption rate goes up. So I think we need to be really agile. It's just not the software world that is agile, but as an HR, as a policy maker or the processes, we need to be agile ourselves to keep hearing from our people and make those relevant changes. So to your question in a one single sentence, everything works everywhere. You just need to know what is working and tweak it accordingly. That's it.
Thanks, Jamni. Thanks so much. And your point of health checkups, and I can relate to it. This week itself, I had an open house, and in which I got a question that why can't we have subsidized annual health checkups at biannual health checkups? And earlier we were pushing annual health checkup is going on free for you. Why don't you take it up? So, and this time they said, okay, you subsidize it and let us do ourselves.
Our approach is slightly different in terms of the fact that that rather than being very specific, because we don't know where to hit the dart on, it is, I wouldn't say best, but an alternative and viable position is to create a platform for expression of vulnerability, and therefore having an appreciation and awareness for it. Because if that platform is created, a lot of things come out which help us know where to push our interventions on, and that is the biggest challenge for us today, with a lot of expensive programs and so-called specific initiatives going down the drains in spite of a lot of dollars being spent on it, because the usability or usage is very low, even if people have asked for it at some point in time. The And therefore, what we do is, from the specific initiative perspective, we try to gauge factors at workplace that could be reasons of mental stress and therefore a detriment to well-being. Now, it starts with, for example, changing the narrative on how things could be done. Right, a very simple thing. For example, our communication, we trained our managers in terms of how they should communicate a return to office in the absence of a better term mandate for their employees.
I think most of the panelists spoke about various aspects. I'll just try to summarize and, sum it up in the way I look at it. I represent fintech industry, IT industry, so I think which some of us on the call will able to relate. So we have seen it consistent in a post-pandemic world at workplace. Stress, anxiety, and uncertainty have been a reality. We all have been gone through it. Could be pandemic, could be the great resignation, now the tech layoffs and everything else, hybrid, remote work, all that we're talking, right? So stress, anxiety, and uncertainty is a reality. Now, how that translates could be issues of stress, could be issues of burnout, and in a deeper sense, if you look at it from a pyramid perspective or an iceberg, lack of connection, lack of belongingness, and that's led to the whole great resignation, right? And then at individual level, it might translate to, from a holistic perspective, it might affect somebody, mind, body, heart, spirit, financially, all those things, right? So, and as organizations, what most organizations have done is first reacted by institutionalizing and setting up the wellness initiatives, and then tech enabling them so everything is on an app, and then offering an EAP program and running few sessions, which all of us have done, right? Most companies done. But what we probably haven't done is to, in this whole anxiety and uncertainty across the industry, is to actually see if we are culturally embedding and reshifting culture of the organization where
basically just giving you a brief about Upgrad. I think one of the reasons why we started Upgrad about 8 years back was that fundamentally education can be very transformative. But working in education prior to Upgrad as well, we kind of realized that it is based on three broad pillars. The first is access to education, the second is affordability, and the third is quality. And if you want to solve this problem at scale for all these three things, I think digital and online are a very strong platform to deliver those three at scale. So that's the pursuit in which we started Upgrad. I think it's still very, very early phases of the journey where we are working on all of those three pillars. But I think we are very proud of what we've been able to achieve over the last 8 years as Upgrad, where we have more than 3 million learners globally. We have career-defining and life-changing stories for 70,000 plus learners, which is a testament to how we think of online delivery, which is very strong curriculum and pedagogy, where we work with great universities and their faculty to bring digital first content and learning experiences. The second part is a very, very interactive learning platform and an LMS where we facilitate student teacher interactions, peer-to-peer interactions, multiple pedagogical elements to again make it a very engaging experience. And finally, obviously, the kind of support services that we're able to offer learners, academic, non-academic, career support services, to ensure that students can successfully achieve both their learning outcomes and career outcomes. So I think we are very happy to have been able to build this over the last 8 years. And I think one of the key things that we have also observed over 8 years is, I think technology and careers are moving really fast. One of the things that I gave as an example was that my dad is a chartered accountant and he had the same job for 45 years. He was a chartered accountant and he had the same job for 45 years. Most people of that generation, I think, feel like, okay, there is this thing that I'm doing and they continue to do that. But what has changed is, for me, for example, over the last 10 years in my career, I have changed 4 jobs and I have been, of those 10 years, 8 years at Upgrad. So you can see how fast things change. And we see so many people shifting careers, moving to more exciting and fast opportunities. And I think that's really exciting. And when we think about that, I think it also becomes really important to think about upskilling people to make sure that they have the platform to pursue more exciting and fast-paced and successful careers. And as you know, not all of us have the luxury to go back every time full-time to a degree. And that's where I think, again, we've been able to facilitate that with some amazing universities. And one of the things that, again, we see as a major trend is a lot of people used to think that MBA or a master's degree is the be all and end all, right, when it comes to professional journeys. But I think one of the other things that we are seeing nowadays is the emergence of doctorate level programs, where I think a lot of mid to senior level professionals are just thinking that, okay, how do I progress my own skill set and career to a very different level in terms of how I can contribute to the organization and how I can contribute to society. And that's where we at UpGrad see that some of our doctorate programs, both in technology and management, are some of the most attractive programs for mid to senior level executives, where it gives them the opportunity to pick a subject or a domain of their expertise. As I said, this could be HR, this could be finance, this could be marketing, it could be whatever, and solve for a problem in a very unstructured way, where they have to do deep research, understand the existing body of knowledge, and then build on top of that. And I think it builds the kind of skill set and the deep domain expertise that a lot of people find very exciting and transformational in their careers, in terms of how they're able to contribute to their organization, their society, and just how they're able to think of unstructured and open-ended problems in general. So with that, I think I'm happy to address any questions after this, but I think it's really exciting to speak to this audience. Thanks for that opportunity today. And we as UpGrad are really excited about how fast things are moving in the workforce, HR, and working professional space. And as I said, we are trying to make sure that we positively contribute to that by understanding the trends and bringing forth opportunities for people to be able to pursue and prepare themselves for looking at exciting careers of the future.
Thank you all for gracing this wonderful event with your presence. We are grateful for each one of you for being here. In case you are looking to hire quality talent, Shine.com is your one-stop solution for all. This is your host signing off now. Thank you.